Alright guys, so here's the part where we get to try to do something, and I'm going to show you how I do my own. So remember, the first writing strategy was thinking about a small moment from our own lives. My second strategy I'm going to think about is something that I've learned as a writer even through middle school, and just as an observer of stories in general. And that's writing about a story that deals with strong emotions. I know that strong emotions lead to great stories about like dramas or loves or adventures or um, scary movies or things like that. Strong emotions, fear, love, adventure, whatever those are. I'm going to try to think of one of those moments in my life, and then I'm going to try to start writing about it. So here we go. Um, I was in college, and I was reffing a seventh and eighth grade soccer game. It was middle of a Saturday morning, right around 9:30, and right before the half was over, a ball got kicked over this 20-foot fence. So to help you out, I got a diagram here. So we got this field right here, and we got the 20-foot fence, and a ball got kicked over into a creek that was about 10 feet down. There's a bunch of woods and stuff right behind the fence, and there's about a creek down here. Now, right here, about in the creek where the ball landed, there was about a 10-foot well. That means there was about a 40-foot pond-like structure. It was circular, and it was about 10 foot deep, so very deep, and a lot of space across. It was about 50 feet across. So as we move through, the ball got kicked over, and I'm refereeing on this side. So one of the coaches at the first half, when the ball went over, went behind the goal during the halftime and went down to go get it. And we didn't hear back from him because, it happens all the time. Well, as the second half started, I'm starting over here. And I'm on this sideline next to the fence. And as we move along, I hear from behind me, help, help, help. So I turn around and I hear and I see my friend Jim, who was the coach that went to go get it. And as I look, he's actually drowning down at the bottom. He's in the water and he can't swim very well. So I got really scared, and this is where my strong emotion comes in. I got really, really, really scared right here, but instincts kicked in, and I was a lifeguard for a really long time, so instincts kicked in. I took off running, so I ran all the way down this fence line, which is the length of a whole soccer field, or about the length of a football field, and I finally made my way around this corner. Now, as I got around this corner, there was a bunch of trees and brush down here, and I had to fight my way down to the bottom about 10 to 15 feet. Some rocks and brush and plants and stuff were in my way. Now, as I got to the creek, I had to swim all the way out to the middle and reach Jim, who was out there. Now, as I got to about 5 feet from Jim, he went all the way under. He just kind of gave up, or he had no more energy. I guess he had been out there for a few minutes, was my guess, and he wasn't a very good swimmer, so he couldn't make it to the side. So he went all the way to the bottom, about 10 feet deep. And as he did that, I had to go under and get him. Now, as I put my arm around his chest when I was at the bottom of the creek, about 10 feet down, I had to hook my arms under around his armpits and then push off the bottom and pull him up. Now, as I got up, I started swimming to the far side because it was actually closer, over on this side of the creek. That was probably like the longest 30 seconds of my life, and thankfully everything turned out okay. We ended up on the bank, and everything turned out all right. People came over and helped us out, and everything was cool. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that idea for this story that I kind of drew out and gave myself some notes on, and I'm going to write it down now. So here we go. So even as I told you, told you the story, I'm having a little bit of trouble finding somewhere to start. So I'm just going to do my best here just to start writing. I can always go back and edit it. The most important thing in this scenario is just to start writing somewhere. You can always go back and add more later. It's just a first draft, so here we go. It was mid-morning on a Saturday. The dew from the morning sun had just settled into the grass, and it warmed us just enough to make it a beautiful day. I was a little sleep deprived, but still had a job to do. I was reffing soccer for the local middle schoolers at the city park. The game was good, but was near halftime. It was about a 1-1 score, and each team had given their best. At the end, there was a cracked ball that came off the shin of a defender and cleared a 20-foot fence that stood behind me, and the ball rolled down through the brush. Let's go back and add that. Through the brush and trees into the local creek. At this point in the creek's current, it had created a deep well of about 10 feet deep, and the current ran in a circle. The ball that had been kicked over was just sitting square in the middle of the 20-foot pool. One of the coaches, a friend of mine, Jim, had gone over during the break to retrieve the ball, and as the second half began, I was working the far side next to the creek. About 5 minutes into the game, I heard a scream coming from behind me. At first, I couldn't tell what it was. Maybe it was a local animal or bird making whatever kind of sounds that animals make. So I just nodded it off. About 5 seconds after I heard the first noise, I heard a clear second one. Help! Help! Help me! As I turned around, through the fence, I saw my friend swimming and grasping on for dear life in the middle of the deep blue pool. He was drowning. All right, I'm going to stop there actually, because I actually had some fictional ideas come into my brain, and I can stop. I don't even have to finish my real story, so I'm going to go ahead and just draw a line under my story that I was writing, and I'm going to go ahead and jot some ideas that I have down. So I'm going to get those written down, and then we'll get back to you in a second, okay? All right, so I had some time to write some ideas down. Here's the story that I had written out. See, that helped me in. All right, so number one, I said I had a fictional story that kind of came to my brain. Maybe the dam in the creek breaks, and then Jim and I are pulled into an underwater cave of 50 feet down. I have to not only save Jim, but we have to find our way back to the surface. And maybe there's some adventures in the caves that Jim and I have to go through before we get out, and maybe we get stuck in some place. I don't know, but there's definitely a fictional story right here that I can just use these notes to break off and start writing in detail. The second one is that I saved Jim, but maybe I drowned myself from loss of energy, and then I had an out-of-body experience, so we could have more of like a paranormal or ghost story about sort of what I do after I have died, or as I float around, or whatever the story wants to be. Since it is kind of close to Halloween, I thought that would kind of be a cool theme. So let me break down, and I'll get back to you to close out. All right, so here we are. So writers, did you guys notice how at first I went back and I thought about stories that had actually happened to me in my own past? And second, I remembered some strategies that worked well for me. Thinking of a small moment in my life was number one. And two was thinking of a story that dealt with strong emotions, so it was a little bit easier to remember and a little bit more vivid to my memory to actually write down on a piece of paper. Did you see how after I was in the middle of writing like the real story, I stopped and I drew a line under it, and I started writing down some alternate fake fictional stories that could go along and break off from that idea. I wrote those ideas down so I could keep referencing them, and I could pick my favorite. So as many ideas as I had, I would have wrote them down, and I would have just picked from whichever one I thought was going to give me the best idea for a story. So I want you guys to try to use the same steps in your own writing. We're going to begin our own activity today. So good luck. I hope this helps. Rewatch, pause, do whatever you need to do with this video. Make sure you get enough repetitions in to understand what was going on here, because I moved kind of quick, so make sure you do stop, you pause, you go back and rewatch. All right, good luck, and we'll see you in class.